Hey, Mark, I know that this isn't new as far as Marcus coming back and Horonis, but is that showed? Has it been part of these bowl practices, or is that more something that's just going to help you moving forward into next season in the spring game?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think I'm sure there's some of those younger guys, and particularly on offense, the younger guys maybe putting a little spring in their step of getting to play with those guys again, because they're great leaders and great teammates. And if I'm a young skill guy, I like having Marcus on my team, of being able to distribute the ball and make decisions. And the same thing if I'm Cameron Hunt and I get to play next to Horonis for another year, that'll do nothing but help them in the long run.
And you're pretty good with this too, so.
I'm very good with that, yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, how's this been this year for you from a discipline standpoint?
How has it been?
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, obviously, you don't handle as many things, but again, we have a certain level of conduct that we expect, and if we don't meet those standards, it's that's part of the deal.
Obviously, that's something you're well schooled in coaching tactics, but until you're the head man, you don't really know how to discipline. What did you draw on? How did you kind of come about how you're meting out discipline?
That's very individually based. Everything there's so many things behind the scenes that one guy is seen as this is why this happened, and maybe it's because there's a couple other things that happened, and you know what I mean, of we don't make all those things public for a reason. But our guys know that it is an honor and a privilege to represent this university and represent our fans and represent this program, and we will behave in accordance with that.
Do you feel like you kind of carry an iron fist when it comes to discipline, or are you kind of lenient? Or again, I know we're talking about case-by-case thing, but have you kind of come in with a, hey, I want to be really hard, or I want to be understanding? Or
we're going to do things right, and we're going to do things right as a program. We're going to do things right as individuals, and that goes for every single person, top to bottom. And there's no leeway on that. How you handle individual guys based on their background or their situation or their personality, I think, is where the differences come in.
Would you consider
in that regard, in terms of the things he had to go through when he first became head coach? There's a lot of problems, and some of the decisions he made and reverses he made on things. Did you take a lot from that, or you just have your own philosophy?
No, I think philosophically we're very similar in a lot of ways. What were the reverses?
Like LeGarrette punched the guy. He was originally kicked off the team for good, and then Chip brought him back.
I don't think he was ever kicked off the team for good. I think he was maybe suspended.
I remember suspended for the season when he first.
Okay, yeah. And that's the thing too, is in this position, because we don't divulge everything from behind the scenes. It's harder to understand sometimes. In both directions, some people say this is too lenient or this is too strict, and there's always going to be those poles. But yeah, I think my parents, my high school coach, and everybody I've ever been around has influenced our stance. But again, we're gonna do the right thing.
Would you consider this a lot of discipline for one season that you've had to?
I don't know. I mean, there's I've been around a lot more in a lot of different places, and certainly in our town and with our program, things are magnified, and that's why it's even that much more important. Our guys are not regular students, and they need to which they do realize that, and again behave accordingly.
Is Dargan part of the program now? Part of practices reinstated?
He's part of the program now. He's part of the program now. We're not going to make any more kind of player availability discussions until after the game.
Okay.
Coaches always talk about how important bowl practices are for developing depth,
Mm-hmm.
but what about for you, a guy that's first year of a coach? How important are these practices maybe to go back and see time of what you've done and what you haven't done and where you can improve?
Every practice I think is a great opportunity. I love practice. Practice is a time to compete. It's a time to get better. It's a time for those different guys to develop different roles. Whether it's a guy that you're maybe adding to his plate or position, whatever may take place. Most of that has already happened, and then now we're more in a full-fledged Texas mode. We cheated spring ball a little bit, got a few more practices and a few more reps for our younger guys these last couple weeks. Did a little experimentation for the bowl game for maybe some new things. But yeah, it's an opportunity, and a bunch of guys have gotten a ton better. Darren Carrington, Dwayne Stanford, a bunch of the young offensive linemen. Tyree Robinson has been practicing unbelievably well. Danny Mattingly, TJ Daniel, a bunch of those guys, those redshirt guys have jumped out, and they're, this time of year you're like, man, I wish we could play these 3 guys or these 4 guys or these 6 guys, but you can't do that.
Sid, being in the Texas mode, what do you do to get prepared for that running game that they have?
Well, we don't have, we don't have a lot of spare parts lying around that look like Malcolm Brown. I can tell you that, and certainly their front and their speed at receiver is something that we can't really duplicate from a scout team perspective. We do a lot of stuff, ones versus ones and ones versus twos, offensively and defensively in a couple team situations to try to replicate the speed. But again, they're big and fast, and so we do that as best as we possibly can.
What have you seen from the 2 walk-ons from Sheldon High School this year?
Taylor, and then who was the other one? Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm doing my quick recollection of high school. They're both doing really well. Taylor's been outstanding in his role. He's really stepped up, and he's obviously doing his best McCoy impression this week, and he's doing a great job of it. And Thale Hauber is a guy that again is a grinder. He's a program guy, a guy that when what he's asked to do, he does to the best of his ability.
After several days of practice,